Welcome, my political friends of the interwebs. I would like to take this opportunity to demand that President Obama apologize to all Native Americans in the United States. Now you ask, why should he apologize to the Native Americans? Well, you know what, let me start out by saying this. For those of you that have been victimized by public education, you are looking at a photograph of a very important historical figure for Native Americans. The man that you are looking at is named Geronimo. The real Geronimo, not the one that they killed in Pakistan. Okay, Geronimo, well, I don't want to get into a big history lesson here, but he was the last of the great war chiefs to basically be taken prisoner by the West, by the United States military. At the time, he was fighting against the occupation of basically the Eastern government, the United States of America. And I say the Eastern government and occupation because at that particular time, the Apache homeland was not part of the United States. When Geronimo first started out, he was actually waging war against the Mexican army. Because he looked at the Mexican army as the enemy, and then of course later on the United States became the enemy. But he was, for all intents and purposes, a freedom fighter. He was fighting. He was waging war against invaders, is what he was doing, and I have respect for that. You know, I'm glad he lost in the end, but I still have respect for that. You know, I would never imagine, or I could never imagine, the Obama administration using the name of Martin Luther King as the code name for Osama bin Laden. Can you even imagine that? Or Malcolm X, or any of the important black figures. Can you even wrap your mind around what would have happened? What kind of outrage would have been screamed from the highest mountain, and rightfully so, by the way, had they used Martin Luther King as the code word for killing bin Laden. It's just beyond the pale that they had absolutely no qualms about using Geronimo's name. I mean, seriously, it's beyond the pale. I can't wrap my head around why Obama, when presented with this, because I'm sure it wasn't Obama's, he's not, I'm sure he's not the one that came up with using Geronimo, but it was put in front of him. And he was told, hey, you know, if we end up killing him, or if he's there, you know, we're going to refer to bin Laden as Geronimo. You know, Obama, who's supposedly a genius, you know, according to the left, I personally think he's not, but according to the left, he's a genius. Of course, we'll never know because we can't see his transcripts. But, you know, he didn't stop and think, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should probably use something a little less divisive. Maybe we should use a name that's a little less racist against Native Americans, you know. But apparently it just didn't dawn on him, you know. I mean, it's one thing for American paratroopers to yell Geronimo when they jump out of a plane. And in a lot of ways, that's a sign of respect. Believe me when I tell you that American cavalrymen, American soldiers had a lot of respect for this man, because he was one of the ultimate fighters in the history of the world. I mean, the Apache, to be honest with you, a lot of our military people would describe them as being the world's greatest light infantry, the greatest light infantry on the planet. So, you know, it's one thing for an American paratrooper to yell Geronimo as he's jumping out of a plane, which they used to do, but it's another thing entirely to assign the name Geronimo, an important figure in the history of Native Americans. It's another thing completely to assign that name to Osama bin Laden. I'm actually shocked that there has been no outrage from the Native American community, other than the fact that, you know what, after all these years, they're just so desensitized to anything coming from Washington that it just doesn't even faze them anymore. But it phases me. I think it was a racist thing. I think it was a insensitive thing. You know, can you imagine? Seriously, can you imagine? The Martin Luther King's a good example. But let's say they called him Lincoln. You know, I mean, or anybody. I mean, it's anybody of serious political or historical significance that wasn't a bad guy. Yeah, I would been totally cool had they called him Hitler, you know, or something, you know, equally as evil, you know. But to call him Geronimo, a man who fought honorably, I mean, against occupiers, a man that's now, like I said, most of you have been victimized by public education, so you just don't know this stuff. But to Native Americans, Geronimo is a hero. To Native Americans, he is the epitome of Native American spirit. You know, he was the last man to surrender. He was the last man they put on, literally, the last man that they put down, the last warrior that they put down. He lived many years in captivity as a prisoner of war. In fact, this photo that you're looking at wasn't taken till 1899. Now, he would die as a prisoner of war in, I want to say 1908. I may be wrong about that. I encourage everybody to do some research on Geronimo. I encourage President Obama, who's supposedly supposed to be president of all the people. But then when you look and see who Obama surrounded himself with, Eric Holder, the biggest racist easily the biggest racist that's ever been Attorney General in the United States. Apparently Obama's okay with that. I'd like to know, in fact, I would really like to know who it was that actually thought, who the genius was that actually thought that using the name Geronimo would be the right thing to do. Now, I'm guessing it was probably somebody in the military. I may be wrong about that. But ultimately, the buck stops on the desk in the Oval Office. And at some point, I think Obama, who clearly wasn't thinking, should have said, "Whoa, that could cause us some grief because, you know, it's disrespecting an important political figure in American history, in Native American history. Well, in American history in general. You know, I just don't understand where is the outrage? You know, the left-wing media, who is quick to call Republicans racist, the left-wing media and the Democratic Party and Obama is quick to use the race card, you know, and here they are showing themselves once again to be the racists. Now now I understand that Native Americans not a huge voting bloc, so apparently Obama doesn't give a rat's ass. But it's just amazing to me, absolutely amazing to me, that nobody is pointing this out. Nobody is pointing out the fact that the Obama administration obviously approved of the use of a very important historical figure for Native Americans as the code name for Osama bin Laden, the most wanted man on the planet, a butcherer, a mass. Were they trying to say that that's what Geronimo was? Were they trying to say that Geronimo was a terrorist? You know? Forget the fact that Geronimo was fighting on his own land. Forget the fact that Geronimo was trying to oppose an occupation and oppose aggressors. You know? But so what? They're comparing Geronimo to Osama bin Laden? So Geronimo is a terrorist? Is that what you're saying? Obama? Is that what you're saying? That Geronimo was a terrorist? Seriously? You know, it's just disgusting to me. And it's equally disgusting to me that the left-wing media doesn't even bother to bat an eye at any of this stuff. You know? I mean, how do they feel about Native Americans? I mean, clearly they have no respect for them. But, I mean, are they just throwaway people? Are they, they're a burden on our society? What do they think? I want to know. I want to know how Obama feels about Native Americans. I really want to know. You know, one thing I will tell you, and I lived out west, and I've definitely met my share of Native Americans. I will tell you that they are some of the most patriotic people on the planet. You know, and history bears that out. History bears that out. You know, I mean, they every war we've ever had, Native Americans have stepped up. Whether it was World War I, World War II, Vietnam, you know, they volunteered in droves. Everybody else was trying to burn their draft cards and run to Canada. The Native Americans weren't. They were signing up. They were going to fight for their country. They've proven over and over and over again that they are good Americans. And what do they get in return? They get one of their heroes. They get one of their historical figures disgraced by forever attaching his name to that of a madman, Osama bin Laden, to that of the leader of a terrorist organization who's slaughtered thousands upon thousands, untold amounts of innocent people. So now Geronimo is forever attached to that. It's disgusting. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for the Native Americans. I'm embarrassed for them. Geronimo was a great Apache. He defended his homeland. He defended his people honorably. Yeah, maybe some of his tactics were brutal, but you know what? He did what he had to do at a time when that was the way you fought. You know, before you condemn Geronimo, maybe you should look at what General Sherman did, you know, in his march to the sea. You know, war is hell, as it should be. War is hell, as it should be. And Geronimo understood that. And he was a small band, relatively small band, you know, starting out fighting the Mexican army and then ended up fighting the United States army. You know, he did what he had to do. So, you know, it's not my job to defend Geronimo, but I will tell you this. He is, regardless of what you think of him, an important figure in Native American history. And for him to be disrespected like that by the Obama administration is it's beyond the pale. It just is. So once again, President Obama, you need to apologize to the Native Americans because what you did was unacceptable, careless, hurtful, and racist. That's all I got.